Hello, listeners, and welcome to the third program in our series, Let's Learn History, which is produced for grade 9 learners and anybody else who has an interest in the subject. My name is Ronald Krotz. Today, we'll learn about Namibia during the 1980s. Government structure before independence. Please have a pen and a notebook ready so that you can make notes of the important points. And don't forget to take part in the quiz at the end of the program. Unlike the government we have in Namibia today, the government in Namibia before independence was different in a way that it was not based on the three organs of the state. The three organs which are the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, but was rather divided into the first, second, and third tiers of government. At the end of this program, you should be able to describe the first, second, and third tier government.
Hi, Divine.
Hi, Angelina.
It's good to see you again. Won't you have a look at this newspaper? There's an article written by the museum, and it talks about the government before independence, and it seems like it was not the same as the one we have now.
Really? Let me see. It's true. But I remember we have this topic in our textbook.
You don't say. Well then, let's go and see if Mr. Krotz is in his office. I know he can help us.
Up to the sky, up to the sky, jump to the sky, up to the sky, up to the sky, up to the sky.
Oh, Angelina and Divine again. What are you up to today?
Good afternoon, sir. We have a question that we want to ask you. Will you please help us?
Okay, you may ask. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. We want to ask about the government that ruled Namibia before independence. According to the article that we read in the newspaper, it seems as though it was not the same as the government we have in Namibia now. What was the difference, sir?
That's very true, Angelina. Indeed, the two governments were not structured the same. The government before independence consisted of what we call tiers of government. It was structured in the first, second, and third tier government, while the current one is structured into organs of the state, which are the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary.
Wow, that's very interesting. But I still want to know more about the structure of the government before independence. So, Mr. Krotz, can you describe more on the three tiers of government before independence?
Yes, Divine, I can do that with pleasure. I like it when you are serious to learn more. Let's start with the first tier government. It consisted of the National Assembly and Executive Council. Dirk Mach, a leader of the Democratic National Alliance, was appointed as its chairperson. It could make laws in the territory, but the Administrator General had the right to veto the decision of the National Assembly. That's the first tier government. The second tier government, this was set up for individual ethnic groups, and each ethnic group had the right to make laws in its homeland with power to carry them out in their homelands. This government was also responsible for the health, education, agriculture, and housing in their different homelands. Then the third tier government. This tier consisted of the municipalities of all regions. Ethnic groups were supposed to run municipal affairs within their area. However, when the National Party won the election for the second tier government in 1980, it refused black Namibian power in the local municipalities.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now I understand. But how was this government dissolved?
Brilliant question, Angelina. The government was dissolved in 1983 when the Executive Council resigned in protest against the introduction of new public holidays in Namibia, which was vetoed by the Administrator General. Namibia remained without a government until the formation of the TGNU in 1983.
I think I have a much better understanding now. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome, Angelina. I'm glad that you have learned something again. Can you briefly summarize what you have learned?
I will try my best, sir. Today I have learned that Namibia had a government before independence in the 1980s, and it was structured into 3 tiers of government. I have also learned that under this government, blacks had no power or authority to control all municipalities in towns, cities, and villages.
Thank you so much, Angelina. And that brings us to the end of today's program. But before we say goodbye, here is your question for the day. How did the government structure before independence affect the lives of the Namibian people? Explain your answer. That's for 4 marks. From myself, Ronald Grotz, the program developer, Jul van Harte, and the Namcol production crew. Thanks again for listening, and until tomorrow, take care.
Up to the sky.
This program was brought to you by Namcol with funding from the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture and the Commonwealth of Learning.